Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
Greetings, my fellow side hustlers. This is your host, Elijah Bilel with the Side Hustlers Society. And I'm going to be rocking solo today, which is kind of interesting because I have not rocked solo in a good minute. It's been probably about I don't know, if I took a guess, maybe around, it's definitely between 10 to 15 episodes. This is the last time I rocked solo. But this episode kind of demands I rock solo because in the beginning of this season, in episode 1, I actually kind of teased something. And the tease was that I would be breaking down exactly kind of like the episode 1 of this season in more detail. If y'all remember, episode 1 of this season, which is season 3, it more or less filmed the 10-year anniversary for the Veggie Outers, which is a different brand that I have. But I'll be going through exactly what are the effects of that and how do I make money off of that? Because a lot of people that they're wondering how did that tie into actually being able to make money on the Side Hustle Society. And this is going to be the first part in that series. It's going to be either 3 or 4-part series. I'm kind of flirting with the idea of maybe including maybe a bonus. We'll call it a 3-part series, and maybe I'll do a part 4 as a bonus, but be expecting 3 parts. And what are those 3 parts going to be? Well, the first one is going to be how exactly did that event produce such a big turnout? See, everyone y'all saw on screen actually wasn't even the full number, and y'all are seeing footage of what I'm talking about right now of the event. And this probably goes without saying, y'all probably benefit a lot from watching watching the first episode of this season. I say watching on purpose. If you're listening on Apple or something like that, I highly recommend you go on Spotify or YouTube and actually check out episode 1 of season 3 because there's a lot of visuals that will help break down what we're talking about here. But I recommend you watch that before seeing this episode. I'll leave a link to it in the description and also the pinned comment because you'll get a lot more out of this episode if you've seen episode 1 of this season. But the first part of this series, which is the episode we're doing today, is how did I produce such a big turnout for that event? Because in total, it was around 42 people. Y'all see some people in the footage. Y'all see some people in the photos. But there are some people that weren't present for the video or weren't present for the photos. So, yeah. The second part of the series will be why did I choose the questions that I chose to answer in that video? And overall, what's the significance of each single question? Like, what does it mean for that event? And how was I able to leverage that answer to that question? And lastly, and it's probably the biggest one y'all want to know, so what about the Benjamins? Like, how did this event help you actually make money? That's going to be the part 3. And depending on how the series goes, maybe I'll include a part 4. Y'all let me know how y'all liking the series in the comment section on YouTube. I don't think Spotify has a comment section, but yeah, on YouTube. And if I get enough engagement, we'll do a part 4. All right. So that's going to be the part for the series. With today, we're going to be starting with how did I produce such a big turnout? So I think this is a very slept on thing, in particular for content creators, but really just for business owners in general. I did a show last season where I kind of talked about me and Christian from Fortigale Social. We talked about the significance of starting some kind of meetup group or some kind of meetup brand. And it can be about whatever you want, but it can be a great conduit to talk about your business and what you have going on. And I think a lot of people are heavily underestimating that. If you have the ability to put on events, and it doesn't even have to be events related directly to your business or what you have going on, it positions you in a very good way to start receiving leads and start making money. So I'm not going to reference everything in that episode. Go check it out. Link in the description and also the pinned comment. But this is just an example of that. So once you're able to get butts and seats, there are a lot of opportunities to make money. We're going to say that for part 3. But right off the bat, let's talk about the accomplishments that this anniversary had. Obviously, it is a 10-year anniversary for the Veggie Outers, so it has accomplishments, for the Veggie Outers. But there are a lot of accomplishments that people aren't even considering because they don't know. So right off the bat, first accomplishment is it positions, and this is very intentional, it positions the Veggie Outers as the most popular plant-based thing that's going on in the metroplex of the DFW. Now, I mean consistent stuff. I'm not talking about, hey, we're throwing this like annual festival. It's only once a year, that kind of thing. That's great and all, but what about the stuff that's happening on a regular basis and it's reoccurring? Ain't nothing like the Veggie Outers. Really, even before the 10-year anniversary, but all this did was solidify that because it produced a cultural event that people are still talking about and an overall different experience because people came, they experienced a very big vegan buffet from St. Copa Kitchen, and they learned more about the history of the Veggie Outers because we're very different from these other plant-based groups, and we really leaned into how we're different. That's number one in terms of accomplishments. Number two, it served as a soft reboot. I've done things with the brand that I haven't done before after the anniversary. We've had more content. We focus more on health and wellness in the Facebook group, not just veganism, but also different ways of enhancing your health, whether it be exercise, things you can do with water, like ice baths and stuff like that. It is a great conduit to bring that out. And content-wise, we've incorporated some of the Sawduster Society into the Veggie Outers and had it so that they can kind of feed off of each other. Y'all remember the guest? This is actually one of the most popular episodes I've done locally, which is with the founder of Hope Boy's Kitchen, Chef Rico. We brought him on the podcast, and it happens he was a great guest for the podcast. He makes a lot of money with his food truck. He's the most popular vegan food truck in the Metroplex, but that was actually great content for the Veggie Outers too. That's been sliced and diced, turned into clips. They're both shown on the Veggie Outers and they're shown on the Sawduster Society. So that's great, right? It's put something out there that in terms of the community, the plant-based community, I personally have not seen. So it's very different in terms of an event. This was actually able to help one of my clients. So St. Copa Kitchen, the restaurant we had it at, they're actually one of my clients as a video editor. And this is another way I was able to help patronize his business. Obviously, he's the one that set up the vegan buffet for us, and having 42 people show up at that meetup, the margins were pretty nice for him, I'm sure. Well, I won't say I'm sure, I already know because he told me. So it was another way to give back to one of my clients and obviously further the brand to make money in the process. So it's not just me that benefited, right? And it was a way that I could give back to the Veggie Outers Patreons. Those are people who have spent money with the Veggie Outers in some form, because that event actually had giveaways that you had to be a Veggie Outers Patreon to qualify for the giveaways, like the Amazon gift card and even a copy of my book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. And quite naturally, lastly, the accomplishment is I was able to make money off of it. I mean, do I need to go into details on why that's an accomplishment? But let's go ahead and get into 5 things that really go into how this would turn, how we were able to make this such a massive turnout, because there's a few moving parts that people don't really know about. I'll call this kind of like the behind the scenes of how this turnout was made so big. So behind the scenes, I would actually probably call that the first tip. Let's just go into it. So I could have just held this event and did it all by myself. Like there's nothing that was stopping me from doing that. I'm talking about the setup and the actual running. Okay. So what I mean by that, when I was being asked questions and when there's certain questions I wanted to put out there and I wanted certain information out there, I needed to be asked certain questions and I needed to create an environment so I get asked those questions and then I can answer them to get that information out there. And then obviously later we had a Q&A where anyone could ask any question they wanted. There's nothing stopping me from doing that by myself. But the thing is, if I did it by myself, this is a missed opportunity to include others and also to spread the wealth around and also pay others. and this would help with the turnout. So y'all remember Yoshi from season 2? I've had her on the podcast before. We talked about a lot of stuff. You see the thumbnail for the video that's on the screen right now. But we actually did talk a lot about friends and networking. Even though that's not what the whole show is about, we did talk about it like heavily. And she has a very hospitable personality. So I thought, you know what, this would work out a lot better if I had someone that could just ask me the questions and kind of like interview me. So I have the questions ready for her, and she can ask me the questions, and then I can just answer those questions. And then when the Q&A comes in terms of people that are there to have questions for me to answer, she can kind of run it, and I can just answer those questions. That would run just a lot smoother, and it's an excuse to bring her in on it and pay her. I mean, I didn't ask her to do it for free. I paid her to be the host or hostess, if you will. So that's number one. Plus, obviously, she told her audience about it. She's also a content creator and a networker herself. So that's an excuse for her to tell other people about this event too. And this is important because a lot of people don't actually know that the Veggie Outers is not really meant for vegans. I know you. Like, what in the world are you talking about? Like, look at this shirt, like vegan vibes, right? But the Veggie Outers isn't meant for vegans. No, technically it isn't. If you know about the history of the Veggie Outers, you know that it was started because a lot of my meat eating colleagues at Amazon wanted to know more about veganism because they saw the food I was eating and they also saw my athletic performance when I was working in that warehouse. So many questions. So we just went to a vegan restaurant and they could actually try some food out while they asked me all these questions. But originally I was the only like vegan in the group. And the whole point is, well, maybe he could teach me more about this plant-based lifestyle, right? Why does that tie into like the Veggie Outers not being for vegans? Well, when you think about it, that whole premise kind of I'm not gonna say demands you not be vegan to be a part of it. That's not true. Because there are people who are vegan that learn how to be better vegans, like they can improve their diet, they learn how to eat more raw foods, more healthier vegan foods. But the original premise is like most like people aren't vegan. So that doesn't mean we're excluding vegans. Don't take away the wrong message. I'm saying that this is kind of us getting back to our roots and making sure we're in the eyes of the target market, which is non-vegans, because that's going to help people eat more plants, eat less meat, and if they want to, take the full swing to go vegan. We can be the conduit for that. And Yoshi, she is not a vegan, but she's very vegan friendly. Like she eats plant-based food. She supports vegan restaurants. So her telling her community about that, you know, which is some people are vegan, some people are non-vegan. That's just helping that crowd, you know, learn more about the Veggie Outers and come out and show some support. So that's just another way of us getting in on our target market. Now, let me just back up and say, like, for all the vegans listening, I'm not saying don't come. I'm saying that if we don't have enough non-vegans showing up, I feel like we're actually failing in our mission statement. We should be trying to get non-vegans to come out and try the vegan food for the reasons that I've already brought up. Okay. I'm not saying vegans don't come. Obviously, come. Let's have a good time. I'm just putting that out there. But this was also excuse for me to hire Xander. Now, Xander, he was behind the scenes, so y'all don't see him like in the video or the photos because he's the one taking it. But he's a local video editor, just like me. He actually specializes in short form content, which honestly, I don't like editing short form content. I prefer the long form. But he was the one who was responsible for shooting the footage. Now I edited the footage. So when I gave him a call, I asked him like, can you just shoot the footage and then just give me the footage and I can take it from there. So he let me know how much that would cost, and I paid him to do that. And he told a lot of his contacts about it. Once again, he is not vegan, but he told his contacts about it because this is an event that he's a part of. And he's actually, even before then, told people about the Veggie Outers before I actually hired him. So that's part of the reason I wanted to work with him, because he was spreading the word even before we were making money together. See, that's the type of person when the opportunity comes to make money, or the opportunity comes to, I'll say, pay someone money for a service, the people who have been giving will be at the top of your mind if they've been giving before you needed their service. Just take that away, just as a freelancer tip. Yeah. So he told his audience about it. He's a serial networker and connector like me, arguably maybe even a little better. So he's going to these high ticket events, these quality events, because he's involved in shooting the footage and editing the footage. And he's telling people about the anniversary as it's coming up. And some people came just because Xander told them about it. And then they found out, oh, wait, well, I've been focusing so much on this money and wealth stuff, I've neglected my health. I want to learn more about the Veggie Outers because like they're teaching different ways of kind of balancing the scale, getting more plants in my diet. I need that anyway. A lot of people that he brought in, they actually wanted to know more about the plant-based diet because they know they need to clean their diet up because they've been focusing a lot on the money. But if you focus too much on the money and neglect your health, you're going to give all that money back in the form of medical bills. So let's just do it right the first time, right? Oh, that's a part of the reason I hired him. So if I was going to summarize this tip or this point, like in a one phrase or word or whatever, I would just say that the default response I had was to actually work with others and not just do it myself. And that's a big deal because by working with others, this allowed them to get more involved, which in turn made the meetup, that particular event, bigger than it would have been if I just did everything myself. And I chose Yoshi and Xander on purpose for the reasons I said, but also because they are also networkers. They're also connectors. I didn't necessarily ask them. Well, I did ask them, hey, can you share a word about it? But like, if I was to hire some typical like video editor and maybe some typical like host, they might mention it every now and then. But these are networkers. So if they're going to be involved, they have some investment in making sure the event is successful, right? So they told people about it about a week or two leading up to the events, and that helped with the turnout. So I chose not to do this alone. I chose to bring in two people who are also connectors, pay them for their services, and the result is we had a meetup or a turnout of about 42 people. Nice. We spent a lot of time on that tip, but I kind of wanted to set the stage. Moving on to the second tip, I would say positioning. What I mean by positioning is when people make some kind of event or some kind of meetup, they fail to position it right. You need to actually let people know exactly what this meetup is in the timeline. See, I said this was going to be the 10-year anniversary for the Veggie Outers. I could have just said, hey, we're having an event on Saturday at this date, and then just kind of give a general description of, oh, yeah, it's going to be a plant-based food will be made available. Do you want to come? That's the most bare bones positioning I could do. Not only that, I didn't do just that. That's boring as hell, and it's leaving out a bunch of stuff that people would be interested in if they knew. I let them know that it has a vegan buffet. So you're going to come in, there's going to be this table set up, and you just grab all this food, and it's going to be a deal, $10 for 10 years. We worked that out with a demand from St. Copa Kitchen, who is the owner of the venue. So you can come in and have this vegan buffet. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. On top of that, they know that this is the 10-year anniversary, and anniversaries in general tend to be more special than just like normal events. But then you put 10 years on top of it, like, oh, this is a special event. I wonder what they're going to do there. I'm real curious. And speaking of position, I made it known that this isn't exclusive to like current members. If like this is your first event with the Veggie Outers, feel free to come out because they could also see that anniversary word, 10-year anniversary, and think, oh, this is going to be like a celebration of like what they've done so far. Like maybe it's just going to be for existing members. Maybe it's exclusive. Maybe I shouldn't come. Maybe I'll feel left out. Go ahead and address that need or that concern by saying, no, go ahead and come on out. You're not going to be excluded. This is for new people too. I'm thinking of these when it comes to positioning because some people they just put an event out there and they don't actually give any thought to looking at it from the other person's perspective. That's why I say positioning is a pretty key tip. So let's break this down in terms of, let's say if it wasn't, obviously this was the 10-year anniversary, but let's just say it was just some other type of event. If this is your very first event, which means you don't have like any track record at all. Like, just be honest with the timeline, and you could say, hey, this is the event I'm looking to start. I'm pretty optimistic about this meetup. I've talked to X amount of people, and X amount of people are going to be there. I would love for you to come. And let's look at another scenario where, let's say, it's a reoccurring event that's been going on for, like, let's say 7 months. So still in the beginning stages, but kind of getting ready to kind of find its footing. The positioning would be, hey, this event has been going on for 6 months. Each event has been great. Our turnouts have been steadily increasing from this to this, and we would love to keep the momentum going. We would love for you to join us. You see how I'm positioning how long the organization or the brand has been in place. And even if it's getting started, you can be honest about it getting started, but let people know exactly how many people have been contacted and how many people are going to be coming. It's getting the word out there, and it positions you to be kind of interesting. And that's the important takeaway from this. Next tip, which would be the third tip, it would be maximizing platform use. Now, y'all see me looking to the right. That's where I have my notes. But maximizing platform use. So the Veggie Outers is on Facebook and it's on Meetup. Those are we're technically on Eventbrite too, but okay, you can count that too, Eventbrite. So technically 3. I'm going to be talking about Facebook and Meetup though. How did I maximize Facebook? Okay, so we have our own Facebook group, which I recommend if you're starting some kind of a Meetup group or a Meetup brand, you should have your own Facebook group. You don't have to start with it. I do recommend you do though, because it can be a great engagement tool. So we create, instead of talking about this, I should be sharing my screen at this moment. So let me share my screen and we can pull up Facebook and y'all can see some of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Let me pull up the Veggie Outers. And while I'm here, I should mention we also have a Facebook page too. The Facebook page, it's a little more optional, but if you decide to have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, assuming you are posting there, it can actually amplify what you have going on when it comes to your meetups. So let's scroll down. Here we are, the Veggie Outers 10-year anniversary event. Okay. So obviously, I created an event on Facebook, and this event normally it has the option like to invite, and I would invite. Well, I invited pretty much the whole group of the Veggie Outers, so everyone on the Veggie Outers. And you can click a button where it says all. So you're thinking like, do I have to go to each one person individually? No, you don't. But I did that. I shared it in the Veggie Outers Facebook group. So if I go to the Veggie Outers Facebook group, let's see. Let's go to events. Obviously, we had events since then. Here we are. So yeah, the Veggie Outers 10-year anniversary. And now I didn't just share this once, I shared it periodically throughout, I want to say between a month and the actual event happening. I've been sharing it about once a week. Sometimes for week 2, it was twice a week. So there was a steady build up to it. So that's me maximizing Facebook. Let's see. And when we go to the Facebook page, click on it. Now, I'm not going to go down to the post because it's we've had a lot of posts since then that might take a while. But I did the same thing for like our most recent meetup that just happened yesterday at a vegan ice cream shop called Swirl Peace. And you see in the comment section, I had followers. You just put the @ symbol and add the word followers. That'll allow you to actually notify all followers or most of the followers on your page that have liked it. So that means that, well, the number has grown since the anniversary, but around the anniversary, I think we had about 725 followers. That means all 725 people were notified that, oh, wait, the 10-year Veggie Outers anniversary is coming up. Well, let me go check that out, see what's going on. And going back to the Veggie Outers Facebook group, I didn't mention this, but when I share posts in the Facebook group, most of the time I'm tagging everyone. Same concept as the followers thing with the Facebook group, with the Facebook page. If I I use the @ symbol in the actual post and I tag everyone in the Facebook group. That means that all 401 members of the Veggie, well, it's grown since the anniversary. I think we had about 390, but all 390 people in the Veggie Outers Facebook group are notified, oh, hey, the 10-year anniversary is coming up. Well, let me go ahead and RSVP for that. And I do that with every single one of my posts. So every single post that came out talking about the anniversary, they got the notification about the anniversary coming up. So that steadily increased the numbers. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. So that's maximizing Facebook. Now, let's go ahead and go on to the Meetup app, which honestly, I have my reservations about Meetup. They're kind of problematic as a platform, but whatever, they still serve a purpose. So let's open up Meetup and click on the Veggie Outers. Let's go to past events. And let's scroll down so we can find the 10-year anniversary. Here we are. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wait. That's my mistake. We streamed the actual review, well, actually the actual video that we produced on Meetup too, or we provided a link for people to check it out. Here's the actual event. Okay. So we use the Meetup to its maximum effect too, which means that when you create an event on Meetup, you have the options to notify all attendees that a new event has been made. So that's an option. We did that. This is something that I don't see a lot of Meetup groups doing, because I'm a part of a lot of Meetup groups too, not just like vegan events, but like hiking meetups, bowling meetups, just networking events on Meetup. And I don't see that many organizers doing this. I think it's actually a missed opportunity. But if you click on contact after you make an event, you have the option to contact your attendees or just like everyone in the Meetup group based on a different circumstance. So let's just go down and show you. If I was to send the email or a message or something, like you have the option to message all group members subscribe to group announcements. Now that number is going to vary. It just depends on who's opted in and who's opted out. Everyone's opted in by default, but they may opt out as you start hosting events and maybe they don't want to be notified on Meetup about it. Meetup doesn't let you know that number. Yeah, great job, Meetup. But the point is, this is just another way to get the word out about your events. So is it going to hurt to do so? No. But you can contact all group members, subscribe to announcements. You can actually message all pending members. If your group is private like ours is, then that means that someone has to apply to get in, that means that you'll have to approve manually every person that applies. You can send a message to pending members. So let's say if you have a requirement that they're not meeting, you can let them know, hey, like the reason you haven't been approved is because you're not fulfilling this requirement. Like one of the requirements we have is you have to have a public profile. Like if you have a profile picture of a fish, that's not going to do. You need a profile picture of your face for safety and security reasons. And if you're not willing to do that, we can't approve you. You can send a message to the leadership team or co-organizers if you have those. You can message members that have been active within like the last month or 3, 6, 12 months. You can message members who have been inactive for the past, month, 2 months, etc. And you can message members based on the RSVP of the event that you selected. So if you need to update people RSVP, like let's say if you had a address change or something, you can message them letting them know that. You can message members who are not RSVP. So this could be a promotion to let people know, like, hey, we saw you did an RSVP for the 10-year anniversary. Just wanted to let you know that we now have this and this in store for everyone that comes. We would love for you to join us. I'm just making it up off the spot, but you get what I'm saying. You can message people who have RSVP no for the event, or you can message people who went to this event. This is for afterwards. So like after this event, like if you wanted to send a thank you to everyone to say like, hey, I appreciate you coming to the 10-year Veggie Outers anniversary, you can do that. And then when it comes to the actual message, this is the same as an email, subject line, message. The only difference is people will be receiving an email from Meetup, and it's going to say this is from like the Veggie Outers, and then it's going to show the contents of the message. This is pretty cool. It's very underutilized, but the whole point of this tip is maximizing platform use. So I highly recommend y'all really take a look at that. But let's go into the details of what I said at Meetup too, because the Meetup description is different from everywhere else, because Meetup has its own set of bullshit, if I'm going to be honest. Essentially, I basically just let people know that like only RSVP if you intend on coming. If you don't intend on coming, don't RSVP, especially on Meetup. But that kind of covers the maximizing the Meetup portion of the platforms. Let's go ahead and move on to the third tip. And the third tip, oh my freaking gosh, to this day, I don't understand why people don't do this. The third tip is to build and maintain an email list. I don't care what people say. You don't want to build everything on these platforms, whether it be Facebook or Meetup or Eventbrite, which I actually didn't talk about Eventbrite that much in the last section. That's basically what I use for people to get their tickets on. You can have it be free or paid. That just depends on what kind of event it is. In our case, it's free as far as the ticket. Now, obviously, got to pay for the buffet, but yeah. But with this email list, you could get, well, Meetup costs money. Let's just say it starts getting too costly for you. But this is where your whole like Meetup brand is. Or you have a bit of a, what did they say? You're in a bit of a pickle then. Facebook, they could just create some policy that's just unfavorable to the way you want to run your Meetup group. Or you may actually get kicked off for some reason. Like, I mean, you as like the Facebook profile, you could get kicked off for some random reason. Then you can't get access back to it. It's just a bunch of stuff that can go wrong with these platforms. But at the end of the day, the Veggie Outers has its own website and it has its own email address. As far as the website, that would be great to have. I'm not going to talk heavily about it because it's gonna mirror another show I did where there's the benefit of having a website and a web page. Like that kind of applies to Meetup brands too. Even though in that video we were talking about this is for a freelancer and they need to have a web page or website to promote their services. You can kind of apply everything I said to a Meetup brand too. So I'll link that episode in the description or pinned comment. But that's why I'm not going to talk about it here. Email list. If you build an email list, that means you own the relationship between you and your attendees and people who have attended previous events. So when you send the email about the next event, they're going to be more likely to show up because they may not be seeing your stuff on platform like Meetup or Facebook, but they may actually be reading your emails. Let's go ahead and pull up some examples when I talk about email. I'm going to share my screen again. I might as well just keep the share screen on at this point. And we're looking at my broadcast. Now, I have separate lists. There's a list for the Money Talks I host. There's a list for the Side Hustler Society. And there's a list for the Veggie Outers. So you'll see some emails that are kind of mixed between those. But you can kind of tell which one are like the Veggie Outers. Because lately, I've really just been contacting the Veggie Outers. So you see, meetup is today. Our next meetup is this weekend. Let me actually back up to when we were talking about when we were promoting the 10-year anniversary for the Veggie Outers. Okay, so here we are. How does a vegan buffet sound? Let's click on that. And if you're curious about the platform I'm using, this is called Kit. I'll leave a link in the description or pinned comment if y'all want to know more about Kit and the advantages it has if you choose them as your email provider. But I'm not going to read the whole emails because that would take too long. I'm just going to briefly show them and then we'll move on. I think the bigger thing to take away is really the subject lines. But in each email, I'm obviously linking to the place where people can sign up for the event. The place the Veggie Outers originated from. Happy New Year from the Veggie Outers. And in that, I talk about the anniversary. Today is the day. That's the day, that's the last day people can sign up for to attend the 10-year anniversary. So my whole point is having the email list is very critical because it's the direct line of communication between you and your potential attendees. And believe it or not, people think email is dead. I don't know where in the world they got that. Hey, you can actually look at it yourself. This is the open rates, and the open rates are pretty high, same as the click-through rates. People still look at their emails. It's the foundation of everything. When they're watching your or looking at your stuff on Facebook or Meetup, Facebook, their attention is being competed for with a cat trying to jump over a table or the next person trying to go viral or Facebook sponsored ads. It's like there's like a bunch of other stuff they can click on. So they may end up clicking on that stuff. And Meetup, not everyone's going to be on Meetup. In fact, a good number of people are actually not on Meetup. So not everyone's going to see you. But everyone will see you if they're on your email list. So just have it. And once you start building an email list, it's going to be real easy to start promoting events. This also is done if you use Eventbrite for your planning of your event and using Eventbrite for your tickets, because a person's email, once they attend an event, that's an opt-in for us. So they'll be joined into the newsletter if they've attended one of our events. So that's something that's always building our newsletter up. Another thing that the email list did for the 10-year anniversary is it keeps the slope of people signing up for the event increasing. Okay. So every time an email went out, generally speaking, 2 to 3 people would sign up, which means that the attendees for the event keep increasing as emails go out. See, the Meetup stuff and the Facebook stuff, that's more of an awareness thing, if anything. Usually that didn't necessarily increase the RSVPs when a Facebook post would go out or a Meetup post would go out. That's more so used as keeping it on their mind. But the email actually served as a conduit for people to actually go ahead and take that step and go to the website and RSVP. Well, the biggest reason is because it's convenient for them to just click on that link and go ahead and RSVP. So that's why the email list was so important when it came to producing this big turnout. What's up, y'all? I'm recording this after the fact, but I want to include the 4th tip, which is kind of a bonus tip, but it's also a real simple one. It's going to be quick, but when you're doing an event or starting some new type of meetup, you should start with your family and friends. Now, I know you might be thinking like, well, why am I saying that? That should be taken for granted. So many people just start stuff and they don't really let the people that they know about it. Or if they do, they don't let everyone know. See, there might be someone in your network or in your friends or family circle that would be real interested in the event that you're starting, but they don't even know about it because you didn't give them a chance. So just spread the word. Start with your local network first. Who do you know? Who do you think would be interested? And even if someone you don't think they wouldn't be interested, still let them know you're doing it because they may know someone that might be interested in it and they can pass the word along. Real simple tip, but a lot of people skip this tip. Let's go ahead and move on to the last or 5th tip. Now, we're going to move on to the last tip, which will be the 5th tip. And this tip is the most important. Let me stop sharing my screen. Everything I said is true, but this is the tip that I would say probably doubled the turnout. The 5th tip is to actually reach out to people personally and invite them to the event. I don't know why people who are running events now have gotten lazy. Actually, I do. It's this. What are we doing now? You're watching me through some form of technology. That's great. But as event promoters, it's caused people to get very lazy. They think they can just post something on Facebook and on Meetup or on Eventbrite, and that just does everything for them because an algorithm will suggest them every now and then. Well, do that. And what the algorithm gives you, that's great. But people need to get back into a promotion mindset when it comes to events. Now, I think part of it is people who have meetups nowadays aren't really event promoters. They're really just people who just know how to use technology. than just put something on Meetup or Facebook and just hope that people show up. That's horrible. That's giving the success of your Meetup brand to an algorithm, and an algorithm can be very capricious. It'll love you one moment and not promote you the next. So don't do that. That's a horrible plan. Go ahead and list them on there, and then consider anything they do for you as a bonus. But when the Veggie Outers was started 10 years ago, it was started in a time before Meetup really was a thing, before it went mainstream. And I hadn't even heard of Meetup before the pandemic. And it was also before the time Facebook groups were actually popular and were a thing. Like, Facebook groups existed, but they weren't really popular, and they weren't really. Facebook reworked their algorithm to start promoting like events and Facebook groups a few years later after the Veggie Outers got started. So yeah, we had a Facebook group, but it wasn't necessarily promoting like events and stuff. So in order to get people to show up, that required me to reach out to people personally and let them know what's going on and invite them. What do I mean by reach out? This is where social dynamics goes into play. Y'all know I started a new channel called Social Dynamics. I recommend that you check this video out that's on the screen, but it shows how to maintain relationships and connections. But in that video, I talk about how there are different forms of reaching out to a person, and you should be using the most personalized way of reaching out that you have access to. So let's go down that list. The most personalized way that you can actually contact and talk to someone is in person. So if you happen to see the person, let them know what's up, invite them to the event in person. It's quite simple. Okay. The next thing is on the phone. So you have their phone number, give them a call, chop it up with them for a little while and let them know about the event and invite them to the event. And I have a tip here. So I limit the conversation to, for me, it's 30 minutes, but I'm very interested in people, so I want to know what's going on in their life, etc. But I'm gonna take into account not everyone is a people person like me, so I'll say 20 minutes. If you want to go 30 minutes, fine, but maximum 20 minutes, because sometimes the conversation can turn into like an hour or two, and maybe you don't have an hour or two for each person. Because I had a list of around, like, I want to say 30 people, and 2 weeks out, I started to work my way through that list. Now, how do you work your way through a list? You call people about 3 or 4 at a time per day. That's how you gradually work your way through a list. And I tend to call them back to back. You can spread it out through the day if you want. I'd rather call them back to back. But if you're going to do that, you can't talk to everyone for like an hour, because that's exhausting, and you probably don't have enough time in the day to do that. So I say maximum 20 minutes. And how do you accomplish this without being rude? You when you talk to them or you give them a call, you simply say, "Hey, such and such, it's good to hear from you. I'm actually on my way to such and such, or I'm kind of in a rush now." Or practically, you want to say you're in a rush. And this is actually a psychological thing. People are attracted to people who have things going on in their life. And this is a tip from Eric Worre's book, GoPro. 7 Steps to Become a Network Marketing Professional. But one of his tips when you're talking to people is to always be in a rush. And that actually puts you in control of how long the conversation is going to last. You could choose to have it be longer, like 15 or 20 minutes, or you can choose for it to be 5 minutes. But make sure you talk to them long enough to, build rapport with them and just find out what's going on in their life. And you just close it out with the invite to your event. And that's essentially what I did. Now, working down the list, the next thing in terms of personalization would be texting. Then after that, it would be social media, like you DM them on Facebook. And then after that, the next thing would be email. So whichever one you have contact with, you want to do the most personalized thing. So if you actually are bumping into the person on a regular basis in person, you invite them in person. If that's not a scenario, but you have their phone number, you give them a call and you invite them over the phone. And this can also go for video calls too, if you're going to video call a person or video chat. Those are the 2 methods that I use. Now, anything under that, which is the texting and the DMs, etc., I didn't use texting to reach out at all, except under this circumstance. if I couldn't get them on the phone. So if I gave them a call, didn't get them, then maybe I called them the next day and I still didn't get them. The next day I would send a text. Then I would cross that person off the list. So the text is the backup form of communication if for whatever reason I couldn't get them on the phone. And that actually rarely happened. I think that happened like maybe twice. But going down the list, if I didn't have a person's phone number, I reached out to them via DM on Facebook. What all this outreach does is it makes the person feel special, because they are. You're actually spending your time to reach out to them to let them know about an event that they would be interested in, and it's an event that you're hosting. That actually goes a long way versus just sending them some invite on Facebook. Now, everything I said, they've actually probably heard about the anniversary, maybe on the newsletter, maybe on Facebook, like they got notified. Maybe they were invited on Facebook. But me actually reaching out a lot of times is the one that seals the deal. Now, it should go without saying, but if someone has already RSVP'd before I was going to call them, well, then I'm not going to call them. In fact, I'll actually send them maybe a text message or a message on Facebook saying that, hey, such and such, I saw that you signed up for the 10-year anniversary. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to have a great time. I look forward to seeing you there. So even then, I'm still adding some personalization on top of what was going on, which is they signed up for the email. They signed up through the email newsletter or the Facebook event or something like that. I'm still adding personalization on top of that. See, this is what causes people to show up. See, the Veggie Outers, even before this event, have a high show-up rate of around 80%. When people tend to RSVP, they tend to show up. It's because of these little subtle things I'm talking about. Now, I don't actually do the personalization touch for like every single Veggie Outers meetup. I only did it for the 10-year anniversary because I want to maximize the attendance. But if I wanted to, I could do that for every single meetup, and I could probably have even better results. It's good to have that tool in my toolbox, if you will. But so many event planners and promoters, if you're going to be an organizer, you know what, that's actually, let's break it down. Being an organizer nowadays is not the same as being an event promoter. An event planner and event promoter are two different things. So if you don't want to be an event promoter too, maybe you need to get one of your friends to do it in your place, because that's why so many meetup brands and meetup groups, they either fail or they never get off the ground. The founders or organizers, they're afraid to be an event promoter. In fact, the personalized Side Hustler Society starter kit is in the making right now. And one of the things that's been worked on in the kit, it's going to be, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but essentially it's going to be like any notions you have about sales being scummy or it's not good or any of that stuff. There's going to be a ritual in it where if you follow the ritual, it's going to destroy that limiting belief, because that's the reason you're not achieving the things of your life. Life and achievement and success is sales. If you don't want to enter that atmosphere, you are not going to be wealthy. You're not going to make money, and you're not even going to reach your full potential. You need to know these dynamics, because if you're going to be promoting an event, this is sales. You're selling someone on spending their time and potentially their resources, if it's a paid event, to come and check out what you have going on. You are selling that prospect. Too many people are afraid to do it in person or afraid to do it with their mouth. They want to rely on this technology to do it for them. And I'm not saying don't use technology, maximize it the way you can, but learn how to sell. In fact, in the personalized Side Hustler Society starter kit, the ritual is going to essentially be put all the on a piece of paper. You write down on a piece of paper, jot it down, and write all the stuff that you feel like, I feel bad when I'm sold to. Like, I feel sales is just kind of icky. If it, I think it's unscrupulous, all that stuff. Write all that stuff down. Then you get either a match or one of those, I forgot what it's called, but the things that can set things on fire. Put that stuff in, get a bucket, and you need to burn that stuff and just let it keep burning in the bucket. Maybe I'm taking it too far, but my point is, y'all got to get out this mentality of, sales is a bad thing, because that's why you're not going to be making any money. And that's why your life will also continue to stay small. So I know that's a little bit of a rant, but it's necessary if you're going to be an event promoter. You're selling your event and you're selling yourself to a certain degree. Don't be afraid to do so. Reach out, let people know what you got going on, and you're in charge of this event, right? So that means you're in charge of making it a fun event. You can do so. So go ahead and do it. But that's the 5 reasons that this event had such a big turnout, a turnout of about 42 people. This is one of the longer solo shows. Usually my solo shows, they tend to not go over like 50 minutes because I'm actually pretty to the point when I'm by myself. But well, it's to the point here too, but there's just so much to cover in a way. But we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up this portion of the Side Hustler Society, or this episode, if you will. The next solo episode I do, we'll be talking about why did I choose the questions I chose to have Yoshi ask? Because those questions that were asked during the anniversary, I chose those questions to be asked to me for a direct reason. And we're going to talk about what those reasons were for each question. You're going to be surprised because some of them strengthen my position. Some of them have a monetizable element to them. And some of them just help with engagement at the actual event. Looking forward to that. But if you found value in this video, give this video a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And I think that a lot of people have thought about starting a meetup group or meetup brand, but they just don't really know how to. If you know someone like that, why not send them this episode? I think they're going to find a lot of value out of it, or just share it on Facebook. So let's get the word out about it. I think this is going to be a more universal show, even though at the end of the day, this is Side Hustler Society. We're talking about money. But if you can get butts and seats, there are plenty of ways that you can make money from the people who are sitting in that arena, if you will. And we're going to be going into that later in the series. This has been Elijah with the Side Hustler Society. I will catch y'all in the next show. Be safe and be profitable, everyone. And I'll see y'all next time.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.